Welcome to the Artist Studio. In this episode, we meet the ambassador of jazz, funk and fusion, the legendary Herbie Hancock. For over half a century, Herbie Hancock has been breaking boundaries and expanding people's appetite for music around the world. And at the age of 73, he shows no signs of slowing down. Teacher, pianist and composer, Herbie pushes beyond convention, using his background in electronics and his mastery of music to create a cocktail of infectious rhythms that have earned him 14 Grammy Awards and an Oscar. In the age of creative innovation, Herbie has and always will be a pioneer. We catch up with him as he prepares for his first ever concert in the Arabian Gulf at the Abu Dhabi Festival 2014.
This is your third time back in the Arab region. You've previously performed in Egypt and Lebanon. Are you glad to be back?
Oh, absolutely. And I was looking forward to coming to Abu Dhabi.
But you did start in classical music. Did that help further your career later on in jazz and electronic music?
Classical music did give me a background into the shape of and flow. Let's say I think that's a better word. The flow of music, a sense of music from the masters like Mozart and Bach, and Beethoven. And others. And later on, Ravel was a big influence on me. Because I had a really good teacher, she taught me the proper hand positions, how to sit at the piano. And consequently, I've never really had any physical problems from playing. And I heard a lot of musicians that have had, shoulder problems or problems with their back, and it's because they didn't really have the proper training from that standpoint. And of course, I learned to read music, which was a great benefit to me. But learning about harmony chord structure, those kinds of I guess that's the same thing, but certain kinds of scales. I actually got that from hanging out with jazz musicians. Later on, when I became a teenager, I started becoming interested in jazz when I was about 14.
Okay. Was it because you mixed so many different genres along with jazz?
A lot of that, my interest in working with different genres of music comes from my innate curiosity. Mm-hmm. I've always been a curious person, and it's really paid off for me in a lot of different ways. I love the challenge of working with things that I don't know. Mm-hmm. I also had a lot of encouragement from Miles Davis, working with that great master, because he always encouraged his musicians, and in my case, he had a young band. We were all in our early 20s, and he always encouraged us to work on things and not just be concerned about playing perfect. But as long as we were working on something, even if it was rough and not perfectly prepared, the main thing is to be working on something. So with that kind of encouragement coming from a great master, it really encouraged us to compose for Miles Davis's band. I mean, he always told us, write tunes for them, and he listened to our ideas. And that's another thing I encourage with people, and hope to impart to young people, is the importance of listening to others. But listening to others from the standpoint of respect for another human being. Yeah. That's one of the keys, respecting all people, and I think there's some kind of hierarchy, that this person is smarter than the next, or this person is better than the next. Every person, in a way, is worthy of respect. But even though at the moment they may not always be exhibiting the best of who they are, the potential for every human being is infinite. That's what I really believe in.
One of your mentors was the great Miles Davis. Can you tell me more about that?
I think that's very dangerous for anyone who is teaching to teach in a way that stifles creativity, that teaches in a way that puts a young person in a box. It's very dangerous. There's the potential for a sea of ideas that can be explored, that can be beneficial to the future of the future of the planet, the future of all human beings. And what I realized recently, and I've actually been giving some lectures at Harvard University over the past month, and this is my second month of giving these lectures. One of the lectures I talk about is called Breaking the Rules. And it came from my realization that the people we study in school are not the people that follow the rules. We don't know who followed the rules because they never made a dent in anything. We only study the people who broke rules and created new ones.
Who were different.
Right. Yeah. Not just because they're different, but because they brought something to the table that had not been expressed or had not been explored. So each of us has the capacity to do that in our own way, to bring our own individuality into the picture. You know, the other things are the tools that we use. I mean, we can use the tools of rules that we learn, but we can also create some new ones based off of our individuality.
Tell us about working at the crossroads between music and technology.
I've been interested in science since I was a little kid. You know, when I was, say, 5 years old, I used to take apart like watches and clocks. And you may be looking at me funny because I got two watches on. This one is actually a real watch, you know, for time. This one has time on it, but it also tells my heartbeat and how many steps I took today and how many calories I've burned. You know, this is one of those smart watches. You know, well, this is smart too, but no, this one is it's not really that smart. It's an old type. I have to wind it even. But anyway, I used to take these things apart, and because I always wanted to find out how do they work, and so that same kind of spirit went into me learning about jazz. You know, how does this work? How do they put this together? So I'm used to looking into details, and when the technology. Oh, by the way, I was an engineering major in college also, so I have this science background. So when synthesizers came out, naturally I gravitated toward it because I did have that background. And the first computer I bought was an Apple II Plus. That was back in 1979, so it was a long time before most people bought computers. I've met people older than me that didn't have a computer back that early. And but I was kind of a pioneer in encouraging musicians to get into the technology and to use the technology to develop and explore new and present new territory in musical expression.
You're chair of the International Committee of Artists for Peace, and you recently became a UNESCO Goodwill Ambassador. Why is being a humanitarian important to you?
Because I started playing piano when I was 7. And I'm continuing to this day. I mean, there was a natural tendency for me to really consider that I'm a musician. So I mean, that was without question all my life until recent years, say within the past 15 years or so, I began to realize there's something more fundamental to me than being a musician, and it's the fact that I'm a human being. And that being a musician is one of my aspects, but I'm also a father and a husband, a friend, citizen not only of the United States, but a citizen of the world. And so this has played a very important role in what led me to being appointed a Goodwill Ambassador for UNESCO. I'm very much interested in developing not only my own humanity, but using whatever tools I have, and not just music, you know. I mean, everything in my being to be able to promote what I believe will be the next phase of human beings, which is a very humanitarian world.
So as you've said, it's great to be a humanitarian, but how can a young person contribute to make the world a better place?
The first thing that's required is respecting other human beings. You know, respecting their culture, respecting the fact that we're all one family. You know, we all come from the same root. You know, we need to develop a more harmonized global society where we're using our cultural differences, using our differences in order to create a beautiful, harmonious tapestry. I call that an orchestra of life. You know, that's something that I look forward to, and anything I can do to promote that, sign me up. That's what I want to do, and I'm trying to do that musically because I think it's an important message to empower people and encourage other people. You know, it gives a lot of hope for the future.
And how do you define creativity as Herbie Hancock?
I don't think there's one word for describing creativity, but first of all human beings have the characteristic of creativity. It's not just one that only the cultural artists have. You know, conversation is creative. So this goes hand in hand with what I was saying about respecting other people. I don't place musicians or dancers or artists on some kind of pedestal above other people. I mean, we're all human beings, and promoting that kind of mutual respect is what's important to me. And so, what that does encourage is the development of creative ideas that can come from anyone.
Well, Mr. Herbie, thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure to meet you, and I hope you have a wonderful stay here in Abu Dhabi.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.